Come on. Let's go. Woo! Hey, what's up, guys? Today we got another special guest for the daily recap, this time for day number 4. It's going to be an exciting one because this time we have the one, the only Yomi here.
Hi, I'm Omi. I'm 18 years old. I'm kind of nervous because it's the first time that I'm doing this. JKM25.
JKM25.
I'm actually 25.
Alright, we're going to be talking about some of the games that actually happened during day number 4. And I think this has been a pretty important day for some of these teams at the very least. Let's start off with the Burmese Ghouls versus Team Lil Gun. This should be the draft right here. There you go. Give me some general thoughts about this, because I think everybody was expecting, like, at least because Burmese Ghouls weren't performing as well as they should,
Yeah.
that Lil Gun was going to take this.
Honestly, I'm rooting for Team Lil Gun right now. I love their jersey. I love the entire thing. And casting them during the wildcards, I do remember that they have this thing about downloading their enemies in game number 1. That's why we call them the Mongolian downloaders to begin with. And I honestly thought that the game 1, again, it finished in like 12 minutes. I thought it was a download game. So I was expecting them to win game 2, but then they lost, so they kind of didn't have a chance to extend it to 3 games. Kind of feel bad, though, because I know for a fact that looking at the draft right here, Ethan loves playing that Arlet, dude. Like,
he does.
He's like one of the best Arlet roams, apart from Ogwen, of course, because I'm biased as fuck. I do think that Lil Gun could have really won this, but looking at how Burmese Ghouls played, I can't believe that they made the Tigreal work.
Yeah, that's what I was most surprised about, right? Because we expected the download to happen in game number 1, and then as soon as we got into game number 2, we were like, okay, anti-CC, okay, we got the Terizla going in for Aizen, big boy, gets the big hammer, and then the snuffing happens, right?
Yeah, it's fairly quick. Our average game time here in M5 is around 20 to 25 minutes. And then both of these games, both of these,
12:09 and 14:47.
Insane.
Just in case you guys don't know, generally if it's ending before 15 minutes, it's kind of shocking. Even
is super
Onic
quick.
games, right? Even Onic games have been like considerably like longer than usual. They're not ending at like 10 minutes and completely stopping everybody. It does take a little bit of work.
Yeah, that's true. It's just insane that they made a triple tank setup work for the last draft. You could like view it elsewhere, the draft, but they basically took Baksha, Uranus, and a Tigreal work. Their only damage dealer or damage dealers were a Bruno for physical damage and a Faramis for magic damage. And usually that's not enough, but I don't know. They made it work, like 15 minutes. Like, imagine having enough damage on a 3-tank setup to end it in 15 minutes. That's just insane gameplay coming in from Burmese Ghouls.
Yeah, personally for me, I think that like Team Lil Gun felt like game 1, of course, download. You're not exactly playing at. They're not exactly playing their best. You can definitely see they had good moments, but you know, at the end of it, it's learning habits. Yeah. But it felt very clear that they were uncomfortable with Tigreal, right? They're not too sure of the spacing, how much space you actually need to give the Tigreal before he like flicker implosions on you, stuff like that. You know, that's where it felt really uncomfortable. And then we go to the second match of the day, and that's going to be Fire Flux
and RRQ Akira.
And RRQ Akira. Which group are they in? Okay, this one here, right? Fire Flux and RRQ Akira. Their draft looks something like this.
Yeah. Now, what I remember from this match is that the one win that Fireflux Esports was when they picked the Terizla.
Oh,
Fireflux Esports loves their Terizla. Like, Rosa plays Terizla mid. They made it work at least one time. And they made it work in game 1. It was a 3-game series. And what's bad about this entire series is that the moment RRQ Akira took a hold via banning or picking the Terizla for themselves, it felt like they didn't know how to play without Terizla. It's weird.
Actually, that's a good way of putting it. I was thinking about it, and then like when we started moving into the other games, we started to see things like Arla, we saw things like Paquito as well. When it's like not as it's team fight oriented, but in a very different manner. You know, where it's like a very clear initiation compared to some of the other compositions. I think the closest that it generally got was supposed to be game number 2 actually, and I think that was like pretty close between RRQ Akira and as well as Flux Esports. In that matchup, Tekashi was big.
Yeah, super big.
He was huge on the Benedetta.
Yeah, it's one of those memorable Benedetta games, mainly because usually when we see Benedetta players, it could only go two ways. Like, they either fuck it up big time by going 0-4, and or maybe even impact the early game so much that it changes the entire mechanic or the power spikes of everyone in the enemy team. And that's what exactly he did there. And I gotta say, the last Benedetta that I've seen that went a 0-4 happened today in day 5, but he still won, and that's smooth from SMG.
Yeah, and I really wish that we could have seen a mirror matchup of them just 1v1ing each other on Benedetta. That would have been pretty epic. That would have been pretty epic.
As far as I remember, the XP laner of RRQ Akira kind of did solo kill the Arlot at least once.
Yes.
In this series.
Yes, he did solo kill him in that lane. And then we move on to game number 3, where I think was by far the most confident we saw RRQ Akira, right? Yeah, I know. Now, in case you guys didn't know, there was a bit of a PSA that actually happened. An earthquake occurred in the middle of game 1 and as well as game 2.
I have a speculation here.
You have a speculation?
Yeah, Flux was in the zone in game 1. Like, they knew what to do. Then we had to evacuate the building. And then suddenly, energy shift. And then we see RRQ Akira just winning the entire series. I'm not saying that Big G up there stopped Flux Esports from winning this series, but I don't know, man.
I don't know. The Big G from Brazil is just arms out, you know? It's just like, we need this win, brothers.
Sadly, they're gone now.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I think that RRQ Akira actually had a lot of potential. It's just the consistency compared to teams like Flux Esports, compared to like Blacklist International, who was also in the group. I think in this tournament, consistency is by far more important than having those explosive games.
That's true.
You know? And plus, it's not knockout stage just yet, so even more reason to do so. Which brings us to our third best of 3. What was the third best of 3?
Third best of 3 is this Vult and Geek, fam. And you already said the keyword explosive. That series was explosive. Kid Bomba, baby. He's my new favorite player. He's like the Big G from Germany. The G stands for Germany.
Dude, this game was something.
It was.
It was something. I was doing a podcast with Wolf during that time, and like even both me and Wolf were like, you know,
super distracted.
We got a bit distracted here and there because in this particular game, right, when we're looking at Geek Fam ID, especially after game number 1, the EXP laters got so disrespectful with each other.
Hey.
You could see that they were like, there were moments where that they started ego challenging, and then like game 1, they're like, I'm gonna snuff you. Game 2, I'm gonna sandbag you. Game 3. It's ego challenge time.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, I remember from the first series, Luke played this Khalid really well.
Yeah,
he knew how to use his flicker with his Raging Sands. I think that's basic already for a lot of professional players, but timing that to land on a specific target is actually quite hard, especially in big team fights. And he's been constantly doing that.
No, the timing is actually like the window where you can actually flicker just before you actually touch. There's an animation lock period, right?
True.
So that's what people keep messing up every single time. They think they can do it at the very, very last second. And it's like, no,
you kind of can't.
You kind of can't. You kind of can't, you know? So if you preemptively do it, then people can react to it. But if you do it too late, you're animation locked and you can't do anything about it. So that's why this is one of the few matches that were actually pretty exciting. I do think that the draft was also interesting from like, you know, giving up things like Nolan in game number 1. They were confident. And then afterwards, they kind of changed things up, right?
Yeah.
We did get to see people. What do you think about this particular matchup? It's a hot take, but Phoveus into like Nolan, for an example, and as well as Wanwan. What are your thoughts on that one?
At first, I found it really weird. Like, I know the Phoveus is like a big counter for the Wanwan, especially for the Nolan as well, that just dashes all around the entire map. But the weird part here for me is that the mid laner coming in from Day4 took Vengeance as his battle spell. Now, early game, you really don't see a lot of impact for that Vengeance, right?
Yeah.
Usually when we see Phoveus, they either go for either the flicker or the flame shot just so they could get that reset with the demonic force, but he went full Vengeance. And I finally realized when they hit late game that Marky literally had to stop attacking the Phoveus. He had to stand. He had to walk. And the thing is, like, the 1-1 never buys boots. So the Phoveus would be able to just get close, get the bonus movement speed from his first skill, and just fuck him up real good, you know?
Yeah, and especially after you complete Ice Queen 1, it's just there's no running.
Yeah,
there's no running. It's just like dash one more time. I swear to God.
And I will kill you.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And apart from that, of course, late game would not even happen if not for Kid Bomba in game number 2. Kid Bomba,
you're right. Yeah, the
Terizla landed like 3 to 5 man penalty zones 3 to 4 times consecutively for that late game to happen.
Yes. I mean, even with, you know what, I'll save that. I'll save that for the other daily recaps because we did get to see
another Kid Bomba highlight.
Dude, Kim Bomba, it's crazy how much he gets away with it, right? True. Especially when he works with Sawo. Even in this game, I think this is something that they needed to talk about later on.
That's true.
Because it's like, okay, they were doing individual plays, and then eventually they kind of got together, and it was just like, if we do this together, it's
gonna work out. Yeah.
It's over for them. It's not gonna even be close. But Geek Fam ID, though,
sadly,
they bounce back from this, you know? It's not just when we look at Luke, right?
Yeah.
It's people like Aboy that are making the difference in these
Aboy
matches.
actually does so much damage this entire series. Like, he's insane.
He does not mess around. He really doesn't mess around. And that's how, like, Geek Fam, if they play strategic, they play, like, very much to themselves, their style of, like, team fighting, systematic lines of, like, exhausting you. It gets super tough. And I think, you know, for Deus Vult, especially with the lineup that they had in game number 3 with the Dairoth, the Mardis, the Valentina.
This Dairoth went full tank, by the way.
Yes, he did go full tank as well.
He did go full tank.
They were very much depending on, like, chunking out their opponents, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it feels weird having both Dairoth as well as the Mardis because they kind of do the same thing where it's like, oh, you're a low target, I'm going to instantly kill you. Yeah. Missing HP, you're dead.
And they had Sustain on the Angela. They didn't have enough of a hold to actually catch a boy or the Claude.
Yes. Oh, man.
It was a big problem. They had low crowd control against a lineup that feasts on compositions that had 0 crowd control. So, but they did last for like 23 minutes.
They did last for 23 minutes, which again, it's a lot. It does show that here at the world stage, people ain't messing around.
That's true.
They really don't. They really don't. Which brings us to our final match, which is going to be
Onic versus Triple Esports.
Onic versus Triple Esports. Now this one I think was kind of interesting for a couple of reasons, right? Because most people would have imagined, oh yeah, you know, Triple Esports, they don't have a chance in this match. But they actually put up one hell of a fight.
Yep, especially in game 1.
Yeah, like a genuinely one hell of a fight in game number 1. They give signature picks, number 1. They gave the Fanny over to Kyrie. You don't do that.
Yeah, and they survived really well. And I think when you go back to the replay of game number 1, you would think that Onic Indonesia would just skyrocket through the early game just because the jungler coming in from Triple Esports wasn't double farming the camps, you know? Pulling the other, you know what I'm talking about.
You just do one side of the lane, and you hop over to the mid lane,
exactly.
And then after
like,
that, you just feed both.
You're trying to get as much as farm as possible. They were kind of slow in the rotations, but I think it's more so the execution errors coming in from, and you rarely see this, Onic Indonesia having errors in execution, that they actually failed to tower dive the gold laner several times. Dude, I think the name is Sano. Like, Sano played this really. Thank you for the stinger, by the way, Cynthia. That was an insane stinger.
Thanks. Yeah. It was a big whoosh moment. It was a whoosh moment, and then we're going to put in that moment, it's going to be Onic Esports versus Triple E.
But Triple Esports lasted so well in the early game until they lost that one lord. All it took for Onic Indonesia to win this game. One. All 3 turtles and the first lord went to the hands of Triple Esports. And Onic just got 1 and they won.
This is why I wanted to talk about this particular matchup, right? Because like it came down, like Triple Esports were doing making all the correct decisions. We're punishing good mistakes on Onic Esports' side. Their weakest point is when they're on the defense.
That's true.
So like when they want to progressively take space, systematically start punishing their opponents. They're actually getting away with it. They're doing everything correct, but until the Lord starts pushing into them, and especially since Onic is one of the few teams that like to go for the staggered push, instead of like synchronizing it, they have like the one big lane, the second big lane, the third big lane to actually come on over. That's where we saw them really struggle.
They crumbled.
Yeah.
Literally crumbled. A 5k, like the gold lead came from 0 to 5k in one push.
Yes. And that's where you see Sans really take advantage of that, right? That's when you want to see Novaria really shine. Oh, yeah. Come back. One staggered lane. Bam. Second staggered lane. Bam. Every single time they just punish. And then we get to game number 2 where it's like, I don't even know how to feel about this one.
They just went ham.
Dude, because it was going well for triple until it didn't.
Yeah, Sans really played this series well. And I have to say that this Gusion was more of a confidence pick rather than it was needed. Because honestly, Gusion against a Kufra or anything in this entire lineup, it
should
sounds
never
like
work.
yeah, it sounds like a bad matchup. Because honestly, it is. And the Lilia was fucking open in game 2, dude. They left the Lilia open, and he chose to play Gusion instead.
That was my prediction. I was looking at this and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, he's gonna go Lilia. Gushin. Excuse me?
Sans.
Brother, what are you doing? He's trolling, right? But no. See, here's the thing. With the mid laner, the interesting mid lane picks we've seen so far, like
Yeah.
specifically Phoveus and as well as the Gushin, if you pair it up with the Matilda, you can get away with so much more,
That's
right?
true.
That's why he's going in with Petrify. He's not even taking Flicker. He's like,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'm going to one-shot you whether you like it or not.
And he was MVP as well
Yeah.
in this game number 2.
He had like a perfect...
He had a back-to-back MVP. He was pinning down people using the Novaria the moment that they were defending the base. And then in game number 2, he was bursting down, I think, the Bruno again and again the entire time. That was like the worst time to play a marksman with a Fed Gusion on the other end.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and I think he was like getting his initial snowball off of the Paquito in the side lanes,
Yeah,
right? Like he was
that's true.
catching him off of the rotation. And again, it's one of those off tempo plays, right? You know what the general flow and the structure of how teams generally play,
Yeah.
and then you make these off tempo plays, and it like really pisses people off.
Yeah, it fucks them up.
It really messes with your brain. Like Paquito, he had an Athena shield. It's like, okay, I need to build an Athena shield. He eventually got it. I'm like, okay, I should be good now, right?
And no.
Still gets one shot, and he's just like, dude.
And who the fuck practices Gusion for M5 anyway? Like that has to be a pocket pick.
It has to
to
be.
be a pocket pick.
There's no way around it, right?
Yeah.
There's no way around it, especially since they had the Novari to open up the map, and they still couldn't like catch this.
Yeah.
They couldn't catch Sans.
It was just, I would say, a good effort from Triple Esports. Again, you said it already in the start of this entire talk.
Yeah.
Triple Esports, nobody expected them to actually win an inch against Onic Indonesia. We're talking about Onic Indonesia, they're currently the world champions based in MSC 2022.
The Southeast
Look,
Asian
again,
champs.
like exactly, like Triple Esports, they had no business in getting like a 3K gold lead against Onic Indonesia in the early game in game 1.
True.
But of course in game 2, it felt like really Sans just wanted to just show that, hey, trial card for having an early game is over.
Dude,
Expired.
that is the best way to explain it. The trial card is over.
Expired.
It's done. I gotta max it out, baby. He played a sick
man.
game. He played a sick game, and honestly, Triple Esports did a lot better than most. Again, a lot of people would have imagined for a 2-0. Like if they look at it at a surface level, it's like, oh yeah, that was expected.
Yeah.
But to be pushed to the limits like that, right? And I
Insane.
think for a majority of some of these teams, like even for Onic, yes, they have one like really good, harsh game against teams, but there's always one where there's a lot of like pushback on it, and you would have expected them to roll some of the minor regions, but some of the minor regions are actually giving up a pretty good fight for all of the groups, not just Onic.
Yeah, super excited for the growth of Sana, honestly. Like the gold laner coming in from Triple Esports. I feel like if Triple Esports were to make some changes in the roster, I hope they keep Sano and give him a better supporting cast. Maybe they could even like win more in the international stage. Because honestly, with our major sponsor Kidia coming up, like there's like a big project up there. I think esports would eventually boom in MENA anyway. So if they could start Legacy now, why not?
Keep your eyes out. MENA might just be the next major region here, man. They're scary. They're scary. Be careful. With that being said, thank you so much, Roy, for coming on to the daily recap and taking the time. Appreciate. I gotta give the favor back. With that said, where can they find you?
Man.
List out the socials.
Well, right now I'm banned in X. I don't know why, but you can follow me at UomiPH on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube as well. X, please unban me. I have not done anything illegal. I've only liked videos and pictures and cat memes. No porn, no nothing. So I don't know. Just bleep that out. Thank you.
Yeah. No bad stuff. Love.
Spread love, not hate. Wait, here's my message to the world. My message to the world is you cannot learn from the mistakes that you don't do, so keep on making mistakes. Let's go.
That's a good message. That was beautiful. You're just gonna hold us hostage like that right now? You're gonna hold us hostage?